Hi, angels. I have so much to say today, so I'm going to try to not make this video too long, but I've been jotting down so many notes lately in my journal because there's just been a lot of information coming through, but I haven't been able to record for various reasons. One, because things got busy, but also then I got sick. And I actually did sit down and try to record the first day that I got sick. And once I was finished, I think it was like a 20-minute recording. Once I was finished, I realized I didn't even have my microphone on. And as soon as I finished recording, I had this Archangel message pop up on my phone because my phone is programmed to send me these Archangel messages through an app periodically. And right as I was done and had just started the editing process, this message came up and it said, "Your determination is admirable. Take a deep breath and let this unfold naturally." And what I took from that is, you're supposed to be resting right now. You're sick right now for very intentional reasons. You're meant to be in a void space. And in some ways, it felt like even getting sick was a bit of a slap on the wrist, because it was like, we've been wanting you to be in a void space for a while now, and you keep on trying to push through that, trying to be productive, trying to push forward. And sometimes that's not the energy we're supposed to be in. And that's a hard lesson to accept. But I had to sit with the acceptance of that message when I got sick. I ended up not deciding to share that video. I will re-record it. I feel like the message is really important. It has to do with some themes that have been coming out related to the divine feminine. And I think there may be multiple messages that have to do with that. Today's message will also touch on that a little bit. It just feels like a much deeper thread that is going to take several messages, if not more, to untangle and to tap into. I'll dive more into that later in another video. But I also then got another Archangel message shortly after the first one, and it said, the first one was from Archangel Uriel, which, by the way, is the Archangel of intuition, prophecy, wisdom, knowledge, and discernment. I just thought that was really interesting because I had to look up and remind myself what Archangel Uriel's emphasis is on. And then the message that came after that was from Archangel Michael, and it said, "You will feel a sense of best timing for you to move forward. Wait for and trust that timing." So I was like, okay, I get it. I'm not going to share this message yet. I'm going to sit on it. I'm going to let myself be in the void space. And it makes sense because more information was coming through, and I've just been trying to jot all of it down. So all of that said, I do want to make a quick side note comment, which is that I'm going to try to edit my videos less. There's a few reasons for this. One, it's very time consuming, but I usually do edit my videos quite a bit, mainly because for the past year or so, my throat chakra has been very much, I don't want to say not operable, because clearly I'm able to talk. I actually talk a lot with my clients in sessions. I have no trouble in those settings. It's only when I go to record. So for the past year, when I go to record, it is all jumbled in here. It comes out where I can't find my words. I'm coughing, I'm sneezing. It's like constant. It's comical because normally that's not the case in my everyday life. It's only when I go to record. So I've been working on clearing that. I feel like it's getting better. So part of me editing less is trusting that. But what you're going to see is less perfection in the flow of my communication. There will be pauses. I would normally edit those out. I do stop and reflect sometimes when I want to integrate what it is I'm going to say, and I would normally edit that out. So instead, you'll see me wrestle to find the right words, and you'll hear me saying and sniffing like that and doing these things. But a really big reason why I also wanted to edit less is because I felt like I was also editing out my humanity. And that's just not at all the energy I want to be in moving forward. So You'll get more of my humanity, more of my flaws, more of my wrestling through the messages as best I can. Another thing that I'm really feeling compelled to do is use the cards less. I still have them here and I still will use them, but I feel like I'm being asked to really tap into a more free-form style of my intuition and a less guided form, guided externally, meaning less guided by cards or some sort of structure, and more surrendered way of receiving messages. And I like the idea of combining the two, but I'm feeling less compelled. See, normally I would edit this out. I'm not going to do that. But lately I've been feeling less compelled to let the cards provide that structure and instead let my intuition get things going, and then let the cards or even just a card sum it up or wrap it up or provide another layer. That way it's more human. It feels more human. That's not the right word. It feels more internally led. And I'm not even sure if that's the right phrasing. There's something about it to me that feels important for me right now. This is about me modeling what it feels like to surrender to the current moment's energy. And the current moment's energy for me is telling me to do this. It could be that in a month, it's very different. So what I'll do at that time is surrender to that. And I'll communicate with you and let you know what that's looking like. Because it very much feels like a process that is unfolding, not just for me, but for everybody. And that what we're being asked to do is to really be in a state of surrender to that process of unfolding and to not try and lock it down and get control of it through external means or other structural means. And that's actually part of the message of this. I swear something is stuck on my face right here. It's driving me crazy. It's part of the message of this message today. So I jotted down a bunch of notes. I am going to read from them where I can and then summarize them. But this message today, I wrote this down, is for the Lone Ranger battling generational trauma / healing. For you to know that you're strong, that you're transforming, and to have patience and take it as slowly as needed. This is for you. If that resonated, if it feels as though you are somebody in your lineage who is here in the present day, almost as a spiritual warrior for your lineage, and sort of in the trenches, really trying to heal and learn things that prior generations could only scratch the surface of. If that resonates, that's for you. Okay, I know I just said I was going to edit less, but I'm going to have to cut what I just did out because I wanted to pull out a couple of cards and I needed to go through the deck and find them in order to explain the other piece of who this message is for. So, for the past couple of years, maybe a shorter amount of time for some of you, maybe a longer amount of time for some of you, but roughly, there has been a collective that has been experiencing a pretty major, I don't even want to say pretty, a very major wave of spiritual warfare. In videos that I watched of other tarot readers, going back as far as that, around 2 years ago, I saw a theme emerging, a thread that extended through many other people's readings and also that showed up in my own. And those messages frequently had the Seven of Swords and the Five of Wands present in them. And the videos I was watching at the time were referencing Scorpios. But I have seen messages that were posted by other readers for the collective that were just collective readings that also had the same theme. So I'm not going to assume that this applies, that this cohort is only Scorpios. I do know that it includes Scorpios, but not all of them. It is a subsection of Scorpios in addition to a subsection of other people that form a larger collective that have been experiencing this for a while. Around 2 years ago, what I saw emerging over and over and over again was this message of a battle, but one in the spiritual that was between light and dark energies, light and dark forces, fighting over the souls of a large number of people, a group of people that make up this collective. And it was so striking how many messages and themes and readings that were emerging around that time and that continued. It wasn't always just these two cards, but the same message, because that battle then unfolded in a particular way. The reason I'm referencing it is because for this collective, it's ending. It's finally ending. And I'll get to that in a moment. But the cards that stand out to me the most from that period of time were this card referencing the battle, as well as, and this is a key one, this Seven of Swords, referencing an energy that is sneaky. So this battle in particular had to do with there being some sort of test or tests, series of tests, that were characterized by the presence of illusions. So if this message is for you, there have been illusions that were present in your life that you were being asked to see, to discern, and to be able to call out and to create boundary around, to protect yourself from, to really take a stance against. And if you fell for the illusion, to course correct, to learn from that mistake, and to then boundary off and self-protect. And I want to say in the process, at least for a great number of you, it would also have involved you feeling the need to lean on God, because it would feel like, wow, I'm surrounded by so much illusion. I don't know what's real and what's not. And that's because I'm human and I really can't know everything. So truly, the only thing that leaves me to do is to ask for your help. And so that component might have been a part of your experience, or it might have just been a part of your experience that there was a lot of trickery, a lot of illusion, and a lot of conflict or upheaval. So I want to emphasize that in these readings and in my own readings, the knowing that was conveyed is that this originated in the spiritual realm. That doesn't mean it didn't show up also in your physical realm, but it started as a spiritual battle. And what I mean by that is that you could think of everything as usually originating in the spirit realm, and then it has a way of trickling down, and it slowly makes its way into our 3D world in the form of conflicts in our own life, illusions in our own life, maybe this sort of energy with friends or with loved ones, some sort of lying or deceit or something operating in your 3D world. This cohort that this message applies to, and that this spiritual attack, this spiritual war was targeting, is a cohort of individuals, of souls who have very big missions and who would have been soon starting to travel down the pathway leading to those missions. And that's why this was launched. It was meant to stop spiritual warriors from hitting the ground. And I think it did effectively lead to a delay. But the reason why this was allowed to occur, because I think that spirit can stop anything. But the reason why this was allowed to unfold is because I believe that God's Spirit looked at this coming down the road and said, yes, this is hard. This is going to be hard for the people who it involves, who it targets, for the people who will be wading through this energy, but it will develop them. It will develop them so strongly, better than anything that I could have ever designed on my own. And that's the way that I think hardships are often used by God, by Spirit, is that it becomes the fire that turns us into diamonds. It often makes you lean heavily on Spirit. It often makes you really clear in your discernment. It often makes you very effective in your use of boundaries. It helps you to draw a line in the sand between you and toxic energies, which then make it even more possible for your mission to be what it needs to be in the future, because you've protected and safeguarded its developer, you, its vessel, you. And so that's what this process has been all about. So if all of this feels like it resonates, this message is for you, because we're going to talk now about exiting that period in time. Okay, so I want to read some of what I wrote down. The title that I wrote on this was Exiting the Void After a Slowdown, aka me getting sick, because initially I was thinking of this as me coming out of this fog of being sick. Then I realized, no, this is not at all just about that. It's about exiting the fog of this period in time in general. And finally starting to sidestep and move around this minefield behind us of obstacles and blocks and sabotage and illusion. If you were to look over your shoulder, metaphorically, you would see a battle zone behind you. This is you exiting that period in time. And I think if you are in this cohort, what you have experienced at the start of this new year is this void space, is this sense of like, I don't even know what I'm supposed to be doing right now. And I thought I would hit the ground running in the new year. Why is it that I feel so foggy and so sort of in this void energy? But let me tell you, with as much tenderness and grace as possible, it's because you need time for healing. You need time to reset your nervous system. And that's what a lot of this has been. You don't exit a battle without battle scars. You don't exit that minefield behind you without needing to kind of sit down and catch your breath. Okay, so hopefully you've done that, you're doing that, you're catching your breath. And also, I think there's a layer of grief involved in this at this stage, because this cohort, for nearly all of you, if not all of you, you've needed to let something go. And what you've let go might have really been painful to let go. The line you drew in the sand might have been the end of a relationship. It might have been something else that you needed to drop. A habit, a way of life, a pattern of thinking, something that represented the previous chapter, and maybe even something that was entangled with a lot of your identity. You were asked this, stripped it from you, and it has required your release of it in order to step forward. The energy behind this phase that we're in right now, I want to say, is very much water and fire. What I'm really referencing is the energy of a storm. So while I was talking about this void, what also feels like a potential in terms of what you may be experiencing is sort of the opposite of that, the storm. You can think of the fire being the lightning, storm energy, and then the water, what comes from the storm in the form of rain. It does feel very much as though there is this stormy element, this divine storm, this cleansing that is meant to clear the space, clear the way for the next chapter ahead. What I also wrote down is the Queen of Wands, because the Queen of Wands came to mind for me because she rules chaos magic. She is chaos magic. And that's interesting because the Queen of Wands is my favorite of the queens. She's the most witchy. She is very comfortable with who she is. She does not people please. She's just really solid in her own magic. She's really comfortable in the chaos. If it were during the Salem witch trial, she would have been the queen burned at the stake. And she is powerful, feminine energy. That's a thread that I want to pull out and set aside to pick back up in a moment, because this process largely targeted divine feminines. This is the part that's going to link to other videos that I'll be doing, because I believe that this process, in part, was meant to prepare a very particular divine feminine collective for upcoming leadership. And the Queen of Wands In her ability to rule chaos magic, she is the epitome of that type of divine feminine. Okay, so now I just want to sort of step back and read some of these notes I jotted down in terms of messages from Spirit about the tail end of this experience. Spirit says, someone thought they could neutralize the power of a whole segment of the collective. You can't change people's hearts. You can't alter their soul path. You can't alter their goodwill. By conditioning them like sheep, attacking their mindset, their will, and their sense of hope. I won't let you. And so, even though this was going on, this divine feminine collective was equipped with exactly what they needed, as long as they were open to receiving it, with all of the help and support in the form of spiritual guidance, spiritual discernment, spiritual care, nurturance, and support. It's been 100% available. And regarding the chaos magic that I was referencing as being present currently, I jotted down source consciousness acted benefically by bringing a hailstorm, chaos magic, to usher in justice and a new beginning. This chaos magic, this storm, this divine chaos was a gift. It was a gift to essentially wrap this up. And that process was a co-creative one with us because we had to participate in the process of ending this by doing our work as well as we navigated through this energy. It almost feels as though, do you know, like if you can imagine somebody striking one of those big, almost like tambourine things, but they're huge, you know, the big metal discs, striking one of those, how it would be this really powerful sound wave, and then a period of time of reverberations. So if you were standing close to it, you might be kind of like, you know, what was that? And then you would need a moment to kind of clear your head and your ears. The striking of that to me was source consciousness sort of like putting an end to this finally, of saying enough is enough, we're done. The timeline on this being allowed to continue is over. In other words, my collective of divine feminines has made it to the other side, and they are now equipped. This does not need to continue any longer. But that divine chaos being the reverberations right afterwards, it's sort of like, whoa, okay, I feel maybe freer than I have in a long time, but I also feel really unsteady, really kind of confused, really unsure of where I'm supposed to be going. It's like you can't know where you're supposed to be going yet. Your head and your ears are probably still ringing. You need a hot minute before the new beginning can finally begin. So then let's talk about navigating this new beginning. I wrote down some notes, and what I wrote down was, it will be critically important to only rebuild on pure truth, humility, and from a not knowing place. Let's break that down a little bit. In other words, stay humble. And when something feels out of your control, pause. Let it unfold. Don't try to grasp for control. I've already been experiencing a little bit of this lesson. I had to pause and surrender control and let things unfold when I got sick and when I recorded that video and I didn't hook up my mic. And I realized, like, I'm being asked to stop grasping to control the unfolding of this. It's not ready yet. I'm pushing it forward and it's not ready yet. I'm not ready yet. I'm still emerging. I need to sit in this energy a little bit longer. But I think that's going to continue. I think that this era is going to be about learning how to ride the cosmic waves forward along your path, which is going to be a very powerful path forward, a very divinely guided one. But it can only be divinely guided if you ride the current, meaning when you have the energy and the support in your system guiding you, you'll feel it. You'll know it. It'll feel like it's a go, green light. Let me go ahead and take a step. Take a few steps, post a video, do whatever it is I would be doing, create the thing. But then as soon as we encounter different kinds of energy in the body that suggests like maybe it's even an energetic depletion, you start to feel tired, you're not feeling that like lit up, amplified, green light energy, pause. Because if you're ebbing and flowing with spirit, it's not always green light. It's going to be periods of let's integrate. If we were floating down a river, let's roll onto our backs and float for a minute here and look at the sky. Let's figure this out. If you pause with me, spirit might be saying, I'll give you the information you're looking for. You just got to be patient. And then when you have the information, you'll know it, you'll feel it, and you'll be able to flip back over and resume your progress until it's time to pause again. That's the energy of this forward momentum that is more spirit-led. And that doesn't mean it won't be fast-moving energy. In fact, rivers can move quite fast, but there is ebb and flow, even amid that pace. Okay, and then what I also wrote was, some of this process is unknowable, and we are best served to resist the urge to logic our way through this. This is to be navigated with the heart and soul, via intuition, co-creation, and spirit, as opposed to the mind. I don't think that we're being asked to navigate this cognitively. And the reason I say that is because in our cognitions, it's very easy to try and grasp solutions and to let our monkey mind swing from tree branch to tree branch in an effort to get momentum going again. And when we are in that space, we can often have a hard time hearing the gentle nudges of our intuition. And our intuition is more in the body. It's more in the heart, in the soul. And so learning how to tap into this other way of knowing and letting it guide you forward is going to be really powerful. So that's what I meant by some of this process is unknowable. Unknowable in the cognitive sense. So if you feel confused about your next steps, if you're trying to wrap your mind around what am I supposed to be doing right now, I want you to take a deep breath and release the need to figure that out. Because in this surrendered way of moving forward, you only need to know whether you have the resource to even be engaged in this process right now, or whether you need to be surrendered to the flow and integration. But if you sense, I do feel like I'm supposed to take a step, then sit in stillness and feel into your body, into your spirit, for a sense of knowing, for a tug about the smallest step forward. And that might be as simple as, I'm going to start journaling. Yeah, I think that journaling is going to help me track some of the sensations and the nudges that I'm getting in my body. And then as I track that, I can document what's emerging for me. That's a step forward. That's a powerful step forward. Maybe the nudge that you take is very clear when you sit with it. And it's like, no, I can tell I need to post a video on this topic. And that was the nudge that I followed today. So this message is already getting a little bit long. I'll go ahead and wrap it up now with one card, and then leave the rest, because there is more, but leave the rest for future videos. All right, so let's just pull one card and see how Spirit might want to wrap up this message from this beautiful deck that I got recently. Let's see. Lullaby, 38. Lullaby. So 38, that's 11. 11 is justice, which is Libra energy. That's interesting because a lot of people who have been talking about this process have been talking about it lately in terms of the ending of this as justice being called. That's sort of like that striking of that big symbol and ending the process. It's like justice has been called. This is done. We're moving forward now. And so 38 in the tarot is justice. So I'm very intrigued to see what the lullaby card has to say. 38, Lullaby. As dusk arrives, we notice a cello player about to play a lullaby to welcome the sleep we need so dearly. The cycles of day and night, light and dark, orchestrate our natural sleep rhythms. We give so much during the day. Night is our time to recover. On this instrument, we can see the moon and the stars. They are the guardians of our dreams tonight. Rest with nature's lullaby blowing gently through the window. Tomorrow, wake to all of the days of your life. This is so beautiful because it speaks of this period of rest. This is your nighttime. If you are feeling that void space, it is time to let it be. Let yourself be in the void and let yourself rest there, because movement is coming again and you are needed and you are ready. You've been prepared. You've been through the refiner's fire and you've come out the other side. It's really amazing to me. I mean, really, I'm awestruck at what this collective has been through and made it out through the other side. It's the stuff of movies. It's epic. It's really the hero's journey. And the hero's journey is what the tarot is described as depicting from beginning to end. It's a story as you work your way through the cards in order of this character who's called the hero and all of the trials and tribulations that the character undergoes to make it to the other side. And when they complete the hero's journey, they start back over, but at a whole other level, because they're coming to that next chapter with all of the lessons that they carried with them. This is the end of your hero's journey and the beginning of the next one. At the bottom of the deck is Flower Spirit. So let me take a look at that, because this is a very feminine card. And I'm curious if it's going to draw in some of the divine feminine messaging. Interesting. Okay, so number 10 to begin with is Wheel of Fortune energy, which is a whole new beginning. So very much echoing what we were talking about in terms of the end of a cycle, the beginning of a new one. And the keywords that are attached to this card are friendship, soul, tenderness, and joy. This card shows the tender and sensitive flower fairy, the soul of each plant. She listens with all of her heart to her friends and provides a soothing caress when their edges get prickly. By enjoying life, keeping the playfulness in her heart, she is a source of inspiration and joy. Her childlike vision helps her to see the good in all things, especially herself. The thing about this card is that it's interesting that it came out in the underlying, because the previous video, like I mentioned, that I recorded but didn't end up sharing yet, is about this feminine energy. And what you'll notice in that video is that I'm also talking very much about this childlike joy and playfulness that I do think we're being asked to learn how to tap back into, because there's a lot of power there, and because stripping so many women of this element that exists inside of them, this inner child, this playful, highly intuitive core part of ourselves, stripping this away from us is part of what has disempowered us over the years. And the way that it's been stripped away has been through a lot of attempts at control, a lot of trauma, a lot of placing a lot of exhaustion and burdens for the care of everyone else around you on your shoulders. And so I'll get more into it in that video, but I do think that part of moving forward, part of the journey forward, is going to ask us to reconnect with this energy. And interestingly, what fell out of my journal are these pictures of me as a child. And I just sort of like let them sit to the side, and I wasn't going to reference them. But now that this card has come out, it feels like they fell out for a reason. And so this way of wrapping up this message, I think, is meant to be a bridge to my next video, because it's very much going to tap into messages around the healing of the inner child of the divine feminine and this untapped source of energy and potential that we all have on the inside, that I think is extremely powerful medicine for our movement forward, frankly, into positions of much needed leadership, stewardship, and care for a very hurting world, but only at a pace that honors what you need. For now, rest Let yourself sit in whatever it is you need to sit in. Let yourself feel everything you've been through. Let yourself be reflective or quiet or internal. Or if that's already what you've been sitting in and that's starting to lift, then perhaps start to practice feeling into your intuition to know what your next best step forward needs to be without overthinking it, without needing to grasp or control or lock it down with a lot of structure, letting it be as formed or unformed as it wants to be, and honoring whatever shape it takes. I'll go ahead and leave this video here. I'm sending out so much love to you. Please take the very best care, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye.